Welcome to the Business Stories podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Darren Moore, and if you love a good story, you're in the right place. I'll be talking to business owners, entrepreneurs, and leaders from all backgrounds, and we'll meet the real people behind the business. We'll discover the highs, lows, and even the failures that got them where they are today. So get ready for an inspirational journey and let the story begin. My guest today on the podcast is Hanna Longstaff. Hanna brands herself as the Food Freedom Coach. We're going to find out all about her story and type of people that she helps in her business. Welcome along to the podcast, Hanna.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Darren.
Well, let's crack straight on. Tell me a little bit about your business and what kind of people that you help.
Mind's Food Body Limited was launched last year, and it's a response to my mission to save high performers from the grips of overeating disorders. It's a huge problem, and it often goes undetected because the sufferer really asks for help and will do anything in their power to conceal it due to the associated guilt and shame, and it can infiltrate every part of their life, and it steals joy. I basically help people break free from this destructive overeating habits and beliefs that have kept them trapped and unable to escape either from their bodies that they're not happy with or from the disorders themselves. There are no fad diets, forbidden foods or calorie counting. My methods are simple and the results are sustainable, which is why it works.
At what point do people realise they need help? How far typically do people let this issue go on for before this kind of light bulb moment and then they reach out to you?
They've often suffered for years. They believe that all they need is willpower to overcome it. You know how it goes, if you've got enough willpower and determination, you can do anything. And it's not quite as simple as that for this area. Normally people are completely desperate, have tried every diet, failed at every diet. They might last a year or so, but eventually they'll fall back into old habits. They have no idea why. And it is just one of those things. So by the time they come to me, they're absolutely desperate.
We're going to come back to that because I want to know lots more about it. It's such an intriguing and a sensitive subject. But the first thing I wanted to start with, which is obviously a real big milestone for you, you've won a recent award for a brand of the future. How does that feel to be recognised for that award?
It's amazing that it's been recognised that this business has potential. I know that people are out there that need help, and with help of my mentors, I'm actually reaching out to them. Yeah, a privilege to see that they've seen what I see as far as a business is concerned. Where there's a need and there's a solution, there is a business. And that's what I'm tapping into at the moment. So very grateful for the award.
There can sometimes be a little bit of imposter syndrome sneaking in when you get that recognition or when you're called out for something that you've done in your industry. Are you okay with that sort of feeling? Do you accept the awards gracefully?
I accept them gracefully. I know it has a potential. I've got a great team around me helping me build this business. I feel the need to prove myself. But this has really got legs because I think this business, my heart and soul is in it. I am happy that others have recognised the potential of this as a business.
To get that recognition of an award at any stage, particularly in the early stages, is even more of a shout out, which it shouldn't be taken lightly. So hats off to you for that.
Absolutely. And it's the learnings you take away from it. I thought I could do everything myself. And I think that's one of the problems of thinking you're cleverer than you actually are. But you can't do everything well and you can't do everything all at once. You need a team around you to support you and you need to ask for help when you're stuck because that helps accelerate everything.
What were you doing in the early part of your career? How did your kind of working life look like back then?
Oh gosh, I've had many careers. My first was I was a physics teacher. I taught at secondary school. I left that when I met my husband because I couldn't find a school near where we were going to live that I wanted to teach in. So I went to computer programming after that. Then I took a career break to have my children. So during that time, I created a desserts company, which was successful at the level I wanted it. I just wanted a hobby and I earned good money from it, delivering amazing desserts to bespoke little coffee shops and things like that in my local town. I really did not want to scale it, and it was not good for my health either, because I was living on cream, chocolate, fruit, and all those lovely foods that I find it difficult to resist. I then went to work in the hospitality sector and eventually landed up running for an incredible little fashion house whose headquarters were in Peterborough, which I absolutely loved doing. So customer service is one of the things I excel at, and which is what I love to do. So provide excellent customer care. And during that last role, I was also the mental health champion for the whole 4 years I was there. And during COVID and lockdown, I was the voice on the end of the phone that any of the 200 colleagues could actually call into to get help, because there was a lot of loneliness and fear going on in those days. So it's nice to have a friendly voice to speak to, if you know what I mean, that can work them through their problems. So I've had many careers and different pathways.
How long were you in teaching for? Because that's one heck of a challenging job, isn't it?
Well, I think the challenge of it then, and we're talking about the mid-80s, so I think it was the first time teachers as a whole were becoming despondent, and the atmosphere in the staff room was dreadful. Not the way I had imagined it. I just thought at the age of 26, I've got to get out. The actual teaching I loved. I loved being with the kids, but I had no support. I was writing my own lesson plans. It's not like that today at all. You know, you stick to a lesson plan. You know, I had over 700 different pupils every week, dealing with the different levels from the age of 12 all the way up to A level. It was a lot of work. And, you know, if I asked for help, they say, oh, you're doing fine, you're great. But no one asked for help in those days. You got on with stuff. So that was my biggest challenge.
So what led you to your current business? What was the reasons for getting into your current business?
Well, I guess it comes from my story. I had a secret problem with food. When I did my A levels, I lost a lot of weight just through the sheer stress of A levels. I didn't feel hungry, so I didn't really eat during that time. I was just so nervous. But I lost the weight I'd always wanted to lose and felt amazing. This was unsustainable. You have to eat to stay alive. And I found that I would then eat loads, and then I'd go on this diet thing, and I got stuck in this sort of binge eating cycle. And I knew all I needed was willpower, and I could actually just stick to the diet and maintain my weight. But I wasn't eating enough for it to be sustainable, and I wasn't eating the right foods when I ate. And to cut a long story short, 5 years later, I've developed bulimia at the tail end of uni. There's no one there to look out for me, so no one notices, but I find it as a coping method. I'd already used excessive sports to try and compensate for the times I ate, and into fitness, nutrition. My God, I've studied nutrition, every diet going from the 80s to 2010. It was a constant battle. Having developed bulimia, you can keep it secret if you're not with someone the whole time. And it's not a constant thing. When I was happy and enjoying life, not a problem. It was when I was on my own or doing things I was forcing myself to do rather than things I actually loved doing. And I denied myself the things I loved because I hadn't earned them. I hadn't done the work I needed to do to be able to enjoy myself. Once I've finished this project, I've done this thesis, I've submitted this report, then I can enjoy myself. And it was never ending. So I was denying myself any pleasure in life and getting relief from sport and food, ultimately. This became a cycle. My husband didn't know for at least 10 years that I had a problem. By this time, I'd had 2 children because I was doing something valuable and I really wanted children. All in all, I struggled on and off with bulimia tendencies for over 30 years of my life. And it stole my joy. It stole my happiness. It damaged my relationships, although I'm lucky enough to have an amazing husband who's really helped me once he knew. I couldn't tell anyone. I was so ashamed. I felt so guilty as well because I actually looked good on the outside, and people say, God, you look amazing. I don't know how you do it. And then, of course, you think, well, I've cheated. I've cheated my way there, ultimately, because if I actually looked the way I ate, I'd be huge. Everything about it was wrong. I was living a lie, basically, the whole time. And I did lie to get around. If anyone would challenge me, I'd just say, you've got, no, absolutely not. I'd completely lie about it. I lied to my husband. Once you start lying, it's difficult to get out of it. Oh, it's just a never ending cycle, downward spiral. I couldn't get help. In the early days when I knew I needed help, and it's probably when I became bulimic, there was no help. You'd go to the GP and they'd say, pull yourself out of it. I wasn't underweight, I wasn't overweight, and I looked fit and healthy, and they had no solution. There was no solution. I mean, you've got to remember this is the early 80s. Eating disorder charities weren't visible. We didn't have the internet to get help then. So you couldn't just find a website and go and get help or go to social media because they weren't there. It's a completely different structure. The only real help was going to the GP. And I felt safe going to the university GP because I knew there would be other problems. But, they had no solution.
This was over a very long period of time then, 20, 30 years. Is that right?
Yeah, it was over 30 years ago that I started. I would say probably about 1980. That's when I was in the dieting sort of cycle. And then by 1983, I knew I needed help.
When you did get help and you could see and feel yourself getting out of it or better, did you then think, I definitely want to help others with the path to creating this business?
I've been free of making myself sick since I was 50. So that's 2010. But I still had the urges to eat and binge and diet. I still had this thing driving me, but I'd stopped making myself sick. I think it was my 50th birthday. I was basically saying, this is ridiculous. You're 50, for goodness sake. It wasn't until 2013 I met Marissa Peer, who's an amazing therapist. She's since then developed RTT, and I was driving her around to meetings in LA with the guy I was working with at the time. So I was driving her around and listening to what she had to say, and I realized she completely understood how the mind and body worked and how they worked together. And I had only been trying to deal with the body, doing what I needed to do to get my body the shape I wanted it. Whereas she knew that actually the mind drives it and responsible for 90% of what you do. Willpower is never going to be as strong as the subconscious urges that drive you to reach for food. I found her fascinating, and it was through training with her that I understood how you can help. And I just thought, I wish I had known this years ago. And I knew I had to learn everything that she spoke and was teaching to be able to help other people. But why do other people not know this? And perhaps they did, but she was the only one really talking about it out there. And getting to meet her one-on-one, I just knew I needed to know, and I needed to help people in my position.
It pretty much all stems back to mindset. Is that the kind of crux of it?
It's not mindset, because I think mindset is a conscious thing, but it is the mind. It's what drives you. When you do a long journey in the car, you're going along a motorway, you suddenly find yourself somewhere and you can't actually remember certain junctions. You've done it 100 times. You think, God, I got here quickly. I can't even remember getting here, because your subconscious is actually driving you from A to B. And it is much more powerful than your conscious mind. I hadn't realized that. So it is being able to be conscious about why you are eating and going to the root cause that is driving your subconscious behavior to eat. I neutralize the root cause of the problem after identifying it. And it's actually quite a simple technique. So after dealing with that and neutralizing it so it no longer has power over your behavior, So you don't need the willpower to overcome it. Just by being conscious of the mechanism and having neutralized that driver, you can actually overcome it. And along with healthy, wholesome eating choices, and I say choices rather than decisions, you can actually have complete freedom from the restraints that you've had. You can eat whatever you want, drink whatever you want, but just be aware of it and be aware of why you're eating. Are you hungry? Or are you eating because you're angry, you're lonely, you're tired, you're afraid? What is it that's driving that eating? And if you only eat when you're hungry, your life will completely change. And if you eat wholesome foods that are nutritious rather than grabbing foods that are convenient, it will completely transform your life and your future. There are no forbidden foods. There's nothing you can't eat. You can eat chocolate. Just don't eat a whole box of chocolates. Have one or two and know when you're satisfied. It's all about readjusting your sort of eating thermostat, making it aware of what's needed to sustain life and to sustain joy. Start enjoying your food again. It is absolutely bonkers how our mind controls us. It really is. And I thought I was clever, not that clever.
At what point then?
If you're in business, you might benefit from renting a private mailbox. Perhaps you want to keep work and business matters separate. Or maybe you would rather have all your business mail delivered to one safe and secure location. You are then free to come and collect with your own key for complete security whenever it suits you, or use our mail forwarding service to any worldwide address of your choice. Choose Post and Packing Swindon for the best value mailbox rental around and a fantastic customer service guaranteed. Visit www.postandpackingswindon.co.uk to book your mailbox today.
Did you decide that you were going to make a business out of this and use all your wealth of experience to then try and help people in the future?
Well, I decided, I think, as soon as I met Marissa Peer, that that's what I wanted to do. I was afraid to do it, though. I still couldn't deal about my own story and what I've been through, because I didn't want people to know. People like my parents, my family, my best friends. I felt, my God, I've been lying to you all these years, effectively. The shame I felt around that and coming out, if you want to say, and actually speaking about my own experiences, because it makes it a lot more powerful, the story. And I wasn't able to do that. In 2016, I wrote a book, and that's the closest I could come to telling anyone. So my family had access to it. They probably didn't read it, but I still couldn't talk about it because of the shame and stigma associated with it. And I felt like a cheat.
From a client's perspective, if someone's going to reach out and try and get some help, for someone to know your story would give them so much more confidence that you are in an absolutely authoritative position to help them because you've lived and breathed it.
Yeah, completely. I do believe I've denied them my skills and my support through this until now because I wasn't brave enough to talk about it. But now I am. It makes such a huge difference. And yes, it is a shared experience that I have with them. I've probably gone through everything they've gone through and maybe longer. So, what I really want people to do is not be afraid of what other people think. Ask for help. Go to a charity, BEAT, BEAT, and a phenomenal charity which offers free help and support. And for those people that need instant support now, I can help. I'm willing to help. I want to help you. I want to relieve the suffering and bring joy back into your life. Live life to the full and your full potential rather than playing a surface game.
Is this all kind of self-taught, or have you looked elsewhere to gain some professional coaching or mentoring in any shape or form?
Definitely. I've spent thousands of hours training myself, personal development, coaching. I've also developed my business head. I've studied nutrition and diets all my life, the science side. I'm a scientist effectively. So I like to see how they work. How can I apply them to myself, for self-worth? Nutrition and food. My parents are obsessive about the food we put in our mouth, the health benefits. My grandmother understood the healing power of food and herbs and spices. I've got a lifelong interest in nutrition, and I've studied everything out there and gained my professional qualifications in holistic coaching, nutrition. All in all, I've got the experience. I've also trained with companies for mental health support. When I was actually working, I got all the training I was offered within the organisation. I've got all the tools.
Are there any common misconceptions that you hear around food and around eating disorders, that are these kind of myths that people sort of seem to believe, that from your experience you think, well, no, actually that's completely wrong?
I would say it's wrong to try and deal with it yourself. If you know you've got a problem, ask for help and get free of it as soon as possible. That's the best myth. And the concept I lived under, which kept me stuck there, was that I could sort this out myself. Because I didn't understand the power of the subconscious at that time. I didn't realize it would override any amount of willpower I had. I thought willpower was everything. And I think because I had good willpower in every other area of my life, fitness, work, amazing work ethic, because I was successful in every other area of my life at some level, I couldn't understand why I couldn't just beat this. So I would say willpower, believing you've got enough willpower. I would say if you think you've got a problem, you have, and ask for help. Reach out for help.
So say someone is in that position and they've admitted to themselves that they might have a problem, but they're not quite yet brave enough to ask for help or to approach someone like yourself. Are there any initial steps that that person could take as a self-help kind of thing to push themselves to try and get out there and ask for help?
I can talk you through it. I can tell you about all the help available. Have a chat. Start speaking. If I'm the first person you speak to, great, because I really do want to help people. Or contact Beat, the charity. Speak to trained coaches there who can help you and guide you through the pathway. Because until you see a clear path, you're never going to succeed breaking it, because it's stronger than your willpower. I'm happy to speak to anyone for as long as you need to speak.
In terms of what the process is and how long that takes, is there a typical kind of time frame that clients need to progress from any disorders, or is that purely just down to the individual and the circumstances?
It is completely down to the individual, but I believe it's their ability to change their thinking and their willingness to change their thinking. It is a mind shift and it needs support. The trouble is, your subconscious mind is happy with the way you are because it's surviving. As long as your body's surviving, it will keep you there. You're in some sort of status quo. The mind body resists change because whatever you're doing now, you're alive and you're functioning at some level. Therefore, it's sort of your safe comfort zone. So pushing beyond that takes a little bit of effort, but it can be so simple if you really want to change. And I'd say that's why, it takes a phone call. My most successful customers are those that have suffered longest, absolutely desperate to do absolutely anything. They follow instructions, they act on everything I give them. They feel so much better instantly, and they start getting real results in their bodies within 3 months. But this is all natural. Once you get rid of the stress associated with the way you are, the body will release any fat stores it's hanging on to. So once you can relax about it and not put yourself under pressure, the cortisol and your stress hormones reduce and your body starts to release and behaves differently. The fat stores it's been holding on to because it's in survival mode, it can release because you're no longer in survival, you're actually thriving. So it's amazing the sort of mind-body communication system. Because when you're malnourished, because you've starved yourself for food, your body sends signals to your brain basically saying, feed me, and it just reaches out for food. The first thing, it's starving, it'll eat anything. It's normally convenience foods or foods that will satisfy a feeling and make you feel better in that moment that you're actually eating, but it's very short-lived. It's an interesting dilemma. Reach out for help if you need it.
It must be very rewarding for you when you've helped someone and you can see that transformation when they sort of coming through it and you're helping them out of it. How does that make you feel when you see that?
My clients are just grateful because they start to experience the lovely things in their life. You know, it is wonderful. And I've made such good friends out of my clients. Sometimes they come onto my weekly Eventbrite coaching calls just because they like to be there and share and help other people move on. They're part of my community. I'm slowly building a community of people that have we've all gone through the same things in one shape or form. And we're there to be friends and help other people go on the same journey. So yes, it feels absolutely amazing and it's the best job in the world.
If you get some downtime, what do you like to do? Have you got any hobbies or anything that you always go to as an escape?
Yeah, well, I love the sea. So I love coastal walking and paddleboarding. I mean, my husband and I go walking a lot, whether it's rain or shine. I've just moved to the coast actually, so I've got a sea view now, which is perfect. I just love being with nature. I love exercise now, but it's not ridiculous, and I enjoy yoga and stretching. I also like doing resistance training because it makes me feel so good, but it's not the obsessive way it used to be. I do it because I enjoy it. I don't have to do it. It's a choice. I actually choose it. I love socializing, got a great social life. I'm just living. I'm making up for all those lost years where I hid myself away trying to be something I wasn't. I think I've got a good, healthy work-life balance now.
That's a really important thing, isn't it, in this day and age?
I've just got this incredible partner, and we've been through things, through thick and thin, rich and poor. It's just lovely to be able to share properly, enjoy shared experiences with him now.
Your award was for your brand recognition. So, with regards to building a brand and a business and the backstory and everything that goes around it, not necessarily in your industry, but in business in general, what do you think the importance is around building that brand to get your company name out there in front of people?
I would get help from people that have done it. That's what I've done. I've invested in mentors, people that have been successful in business and helped hundreds of other people run successful businesses. That by far has been my best investment into my business. And what came with it was an amazing community of supportive people in my position, either starting new businesses or running very successful businesses. It doesn't matter what level they are, the level of support I have had. And times are hard. It can be lonely setting up your own business. Fitting into this community of people, asking advice or just phoning someone up and saying, look, I'm really struggling with this. I just wanted to speak to someone. It is so lovely to have that support system. If you've got trouble, ask for help. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's your business, whether it's a sport. If you've got something or a challenge that you're struggling to break through, there's someone that knows exactly the help you need. So why not ask for it and accelerate the process and then start enjoying it more?
If you had an opportunity to go and meet your younger self, what advice would you give the younger Hannah?
I think you can't do it all. You can't do it all by yourself. Collaborate, share, and communicate. Don't try and be the person that does it all for whatever reason. And I think that comes down to my engineering sort of background and training. I love to solve problems and I get great joy in solving other people's problems or finding solutions. The process of fixing a problem I actually love, and the joy I get from fixing it I love, but that's held me back. And sometimes I believe what you perceive to be your strengths are actually what is stopping you from getting where you're going. I would say you can't do it all. Find your community, find your tribe to help get you to where you want to be. And if there are people that say you can't do it, you don't need them in your life. If you're going places and you want to achieve anything, you've got to support yourself with people that support you in that. So get rid of any negative people around you and just look for the help, the advice, the support, the friendship and the comradeship of the people around you, and work together.
Wise words, absolutely. Couple of things just to finish. Any launches, any products, any courses, anything that you want to tell everyone about?
On Monday, I'm launching the No Diet Best Body program. And the reason being, I found people are much more interested in seeking help for their body than they are for the problems associated with trying to acquire that. I've created this program that will help anyone that's a serial dieter, has failed again and again and again, can't get control over their eating. I'm launching it on Monday, so watch this space.
And how can anyone get in touch if they want to contact you either personally or professionally? What's the easiest way for people to reach out to you?
Most of your listeners are going to be business people, probably have a LinkedIn profile. Send me a message, drop me a line on LinkedIn. The name's Hanna Longstaff, and that's Hanna without an H on the end. Drop me a line on LinkedIn and let's chat.
Well, look, Hannah, I've really enjoyed chatting to you, and I know for sure that there's going to be plenty of people out there that are going to take a lot of value in what you do and are going to be inspired by your story. So thank you so much for joining me today and sharing all your knowledge and experience.
I just want to thank you for inviting me, Darren, because you and Shani have been so supportive. From the first moment I met Shani in particular, what a wonderful woman. And I've spoken to her about some of my business challenges. And you two are so generous and giving of your time and your valuable information because you've done it, and you just get better and better. And you two are so inspiring that I'm just very grateful to have met you and to have been invited on this podcast. So thank you so much.
Well, you've left me speechless now. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you, Hannah. That's great. I will catch up with you really soon.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you, Darren.
So there you go. Another great story to add to the collection. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please check out my other episodes and remember to subscribe, leave a review and share it with your friends to help the podcast grow. I look forward to seeing you on the next Business Stories podcast.